Alright guys, so I hope you're ready for your next animated GIF lesson because we're getting into Photoshop lesson 6 today. And you can kind of see here with the Google search that I already did that I'm going to do kind of a Batman scene with 4 different Batman characters. But the first thing you'll always want to start with when you're building a photo collage, which means you're taking pieces of other photos and putting them into one photo, is you want a nice big wallpaper or a nice big background. So when I literally Google searched this, I looked up background, wallpaper, Batcave. The word wallpaper is a key word for your Google search that will give you nice large images. And I can't stress enough that I want you guys to hover over these images and make sure that they're not teeny tiny little images. You can see here this one's 1920 by 1200. I say if your image is not over 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels, then you probably want a different image. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this one. But before I do, what I'm not going to do is just click on it, right click and say Save Image As. Notice how my file name actually says download. That means you have not opened that picture all the way up, and when you open it in Photoshop, it's literally going to open at this size, at the thumbnail size. So it's really important that you guys actually click on your pictures, open them up all the way. There it is. Okay. So let's try to grab it, open it up all the way. When I save image as from here, there we go. Notice how it's a JPEG image. It says gray VK by blah, 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 blah. So it actually has a file name. All right, so make sure you select your student numbers. I'm going to go ahead and throw this on my flash drive real quick. So I'll be right back. All right, so flash drive. And again, you guys can probably just save to your numbers and be fine. All right, we're good to go. Let's go File, Open. Let's get our background open, and pretty much everything, you want to start with your background because everything that you're going to do, you're pretty much going to cut the background out and drop your stuff on top of the background. Okay, so we're going to go, I think it was this one, pretty sure, that's my JPEG. And File, Open. Let's see how this looks. That's great. You know, the 670 kind of worried me, but it's a really good quality picture. I have a nice little stage where I can put my characters. I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet, but I'll figure that out later. All right, so let's go ahead and let's pull in some characters. So again, you're just going to start Google searching. I'm going to say the first character that should probably be in the Batcave, Batman. And I'm just going to do literally just a Batman search. So notice my background is kind of this, it's not like a cartoon background, it definitely looks like it was computer generated or computer animated, so I probably want a Batman that's kind of like that as well. You also want to make sure that your backgrounds are not super crazy. Like, even though this Batman is really cool, the background is going to make it very, very difficult for me to chop him out from this picture. So try to find a picture of your characters, either with a solid color background or a background that's just not too crazy, because you're going to see that some of the tools that you're going to use for this is going to cause you some issues. That would actually probably look really good with this background, this Batman, if I could find a better picture of it. That might be okay. Let's see if I can actually get that one. Is that it right there? That's the picture. I'm afraid it's going to be teeny tiny. Yeah, it is. 600 by 200. That's not going to do me any good, even though that's a great Batman. Let's see what this one is. 503 by 718. So you kind of get the idea here. I'm going to pause this while I find a good Batman picture. Alright, so I think I found a decent Batman here. You know, it's not my first choice, but it'll work. I can chop him out from this background very easy. So I'm going to right click, Save Image As. Again, you're going to select your numbers. I'm going to go ahead and select my USB disk. I'm going to go ahead and go to Photoshop and say Open and find that file that I just opened. And here's how you take one picture and put it into the next picture, which I know I've shown some of you guys and some of you guys I have not. Alright, so here's my Batman. Nice, good quality picture. I'm going to click here and unlock it. Let's do the Magic Erase tool for this one. Alright, so underneath your eraser tool, which I don't know if we've really played with a whole lot, if you hold this down, you're going to see something called Magic Eraser tool. And it's literally a color-based tool that works on tolerance. So my tolerance is 32 right now. If I click in this picture at 32, if by mistake, because this is a color-based tool, and what tolerance actually means is wherever I click, it's going to delete the 32 closest pixels to the color that I actually click on in this picture. So notice how he has this little white in his eye right there. If my tolerance is too high, it will actually delete the white in his eye as well. So I want to make sure that my tolerance is nice and low, and I'm just going to click once, and magically the background is gone. You want to really look at your picture though. Sometimes it misses little parts like right here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that right in between his little cuff thing right here. And once you get the background removed from the picture in one layer, you're going to grab your move tool. With my mouse, I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to take this picture and hover it over this tab until my background picture pops up. I'm going to take my mouse down here, and I still haven't dropped it. I'm still holding down the left mouse button. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop my Batman into this picture. Okay? Batman is super big. So what I'm going to do is something called a free transform. I'm going to go edit. I'm going to go free transform. I'm going to hold down the shift key on my keyboard so that I constrain proportions. Alright, so my height and my width doesn't get all messed up and I don't make them too fat or too skinny. Alright, and once I hold down shift and shrink him down like that, he is now kind of on scale with the background. To finalize your free transform, when you're done, you're going to press enter. Be careful with free transform, guys. It is a destructive transformation. What you're doing is you're taking this picture, you're shrinking it down, and Photoshop is basically throwing away pixels that you don't need anymore. So if you change your mind and you want to make this picture bigger again, it is going to pixelate on you. You're going to start to see the little squares with the colors on it. Alright, guys. So I have one picture here. I'm not even really going to worry about puppet warping until I get all of my characters in my picture. So for this particular project, every time you drop in one character, you want to close out the original tab that you got the character out from, and you want to make sure before you open up another character that you just have this one tab looking at you. Remember, in Photoshop, every tab that you have open up here is a new project. So when you go to save this at the end of class so you can continue it tomorrow and start your puppet warping tomorrow, you're going to see that you're going to have to save for every single tab that you have open, okay? So I have a starter composition here with just 2 layers. It's a good rule of thumb. Go ahead and do a file, save as. Make sure you keep it as a PSD file. Make sure you select your student numbers over here. And I'm just going to say this is my Batman collage, okay? And I'm going to hit save. I'm just going to hit OK. All right? And go ahead and start pulling in the rest of your characters into the image. When you're all done, we're going to start puppet warping. So I'm going to pause until I actually grab the rest of my characters. So check this out, guys. So this is what a PNG file should look like when you actually open it up in Photoshop. So I found this really great PNG of the Joker that I can use. So notice how it has no background. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to use Magic Eraser. You can literally just click and drag and drop him into his new scene. All right? Do your free transform and shrink them down. Make sure you hold down shift. Okay. He's a little bigger than Batman. Alright. Something like that, and then press enter to finalize your free transformation. Alright, so check this out. I have 2 characters now, and what you want to do when you're putting new characters in a scene is really pay attention to the details, like shadows, for example. So let's look at something called drop shadow real quick. I'm going to double click on layer 1. I'm going to click on this thing called drop shadow. When I actually click and drag, make sure this is actually selected, and you can kind of scoot this off to the side if you want to. When I actually click and drag, notice how I can actually grab Batman's shadow out from in back of him. Alright? It's cool, but shadows just don't they don't look like that. They usually lay down, kind of on the floor, depending on where the sun's hitting. So you want to grab the shadow, and you want to make sure it lays flat on the ground to make it look like he's not hovering in midair. Alright, so there's the shadow. Let's pull it out a little bit so that we can see it. I'm going to press OK. Notice how over here I have a new effect under layer 1 that says drop shadow. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say create layer. Alright, notice how now I have layer 1's drop shadow, and it's its own layer. What this is going to allow me to do is select just the shadow, not Batman, but just his shadow, and it's going to allow me to lay it down on the ground using something called free transform. So with free transform, I'm going to hold down the control button on my keyboard. I'm going to grab this top square in the free transform box and literally just lay the shadow down on the ground. Okay, let me scoot it out a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm doing so Batman's not in the way. So here's the shadow. Literally hold down control on your keyboard and lay it down. Isn't that crazy? Lay it down flat on the ground. Make sure that the feet are always connected to the shadow. That makes everything look a lot more natural. Alright, so now that I have a shadow on Batman, and I know you can't really see it with my background, but on your backgrounds, depending on what character you have, you'll be able to see it a lot better. So I'm going to do the same thing to Joker real quick. Look at Batman's shadow, though. It's going this way. Make sure all your shadows are going the same way. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to drop shadow. Pull it out a little bit from behind Joker so that I can see it. Press OK. I have a new layer here. Right click and say create layer for your actual shadow. Say OK, whatever that says, we'll do that. Click on the new layer that says layer 2's drop shadow. Go up top and say edit, and then go to free transform. Hold down control, and then lay it down flat. Same direction as Batman. Connect the feet, and then you're good to go. Press enter. You now have a shadow on Joker, and what this basically does, guys, is it grounds your characters. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and pause this and say this is going to be the end of part 1. I know I only have 2 characters, but by the end of the class today you should have 4 characters. Make sure you have drop shadows on all of them. And what we're basically going to do here before we start puppet warping is we're going to combine our shadows back with our layers again, and that way when we puppet warp and we animate one character, the shadow kind of moves with it too, or at least that's what we're going to try to do. Alright, good luck, guys.